Hi there, and welcome to another edition of Israel Explained. So, today we're going to discuss the possibility that aid levels will be lowered once Trump is brought into office. Um, so, Channel 12 reported today, Almog Boker did on Channel 12, that Israeli officials are discussing the possibility of dramatically lowering the amount of aid that is let into Gaza once Trump is elected. An official told Channel 12, quote, "There is serious doubt if the amount of aid that is being let in will be similar to the amount that will enter during the Trump administration." Obviously, the exact amount of decrease will be coordinated with the next administration, very similarly to the way the levels of aid have been coordinated with the Biden administration. The background to all this is, first of all, Israel's inability to replace Hamas as the governing body in Gaza. Also, we're now on 8 days straight where Hamas has managed to launch rockets into Israel, which is really weakening the perception among Israelis, especially those living next to Gaza, but Israelis in general, of the idea that Israel has won this war and seriously weakened Hamas. And of course, there's also the continued insistence by Hamas on their terms in the hostage negotiations, in particular, that the entire war end and Israel not be able to renew it if they're going to give up the hostages. So those three things have led Israel to want to lower the level of aid, which many in the IDF and the government believe is allowing Hamas to remain in power. Something else that Israel has been doing over the last few days that's gone under the radar is instead of targeting Hamas military targets, which are more or less gone, there's still some Hamas military operatives out there. There's still some infrastructure, but it's very hard to find, mostly because there isn't much of it. So instead of focusing on that, the IDF has begun focusing on the civil government of Hamas. Up until recently, Israel has allowed the Hamas government to reestablish itself, at least to some extent, in order to prevent areas of Gaza from becoming a failed state. But we've seen a bit of a change in that trend. The assassination of the head of police, Mahmoud Salah, a few days ago, was an indication of that. He's one of many civilian officials that Israel has assassinated in an attempt to undermine Hamas's ability to rule the cities that the IDF has gone out of. All of that, I'm assuming, in order to lower the leverage of Hamas in negotiations and their ability to govern. But of course, there is a problem with that. Without a military government, which Israel has discussed but has not begun to implement, and without an alternative government, either Hamas governs in these cities, uh, allowing them to be stronger but keeping a semblance of order, in the cities, or Gaza becomes a fully fledged failed state. The implications for that could include various diseases, could include starvation for the population, could include the disintegration of Hamas into all sorts of smaller terror groups, bandits that Israel would have difficulty penetrating in terms of intelligence, and most importantly, the disappearance of the hostages, the death of the hostages, and so on, which is a main goal that the IDF has claimed that they're trying to achieve. So there's a lot of dangers involved with trying to completely have Hamas disintegrate their civilian government without replacing it, which is one of the reasons Israel hasn't done that until now. And of course, if you pair that with the decline of aid that Israel is considering, the path to a humanitarian disaster is rather clear. So these are, assuming they're accurate, quite worrying developments that we could start seeing occur as soon as Trump is sworn in later on this month. So thank you for watching. If you like what I do here, consider supporting me on Patreon and listening to my history podcast, the History of the Land of Israel podcast. I will be here again the next time something interesting happens.